motion stirred up so much suspicion and even malice. Our next guests have some thoughts on that. Amira El-Gawabi is the Director of Communications for the National Council of Canadian Muslims, and she joins us here in Toronto. And freelance writer Nora Loretto covers Quebec politics. She's in Quebec City tonight. So let me ask you, first of all, about this motion, to get your take on it. So, Nora, let me begin with you.
I think that this is an important response, a symbolic response to say to Canadians that our government is opposed to Islamophobia, to make a very strong stand in the wake of what has happened not very far from where I am right now in Quebec City. It's to send a signal to Canadians to say that, it's not a Canadian value, shall we say, to be hateful or to be Islamophobic. And of course, it has created quite a lot of controversy on the other side of the House in Ottawa.
Amira, tell me what your take is and what this means, as far as you can tell, to the Muslim community in Canada.
Well, I mean, I think what we saw following the tragedy in Quebec City, where 6 worshippers were tragically gunned down, was an incredible outpouring of support from Canadians from coast to coast to coast who were mourning with our communities. And what we saw and heard from fellow Canadians was a real desire to sort of confront the kind of hatred that would have led someone to do such a thing. And people were asking, what can we do? How can we show support and solidarity? So this motion actually represents a way for all of Canadians to come together, for our leadership to show that they are standing up to this sort of phenomenon and looking at how we can make our country stronger, more inclusive, and really find solutions to deal with this very, very difficult time that we are living in.
All of which sounds, reasonable on the surface of it, but of course there's been a range of opinion on the opposition side, some of it very extreme, but some of it not. There are others who say, Nora, for instance, this is legislation that isn't needed, especially to isolate the word Islamophobia, that would elevate Islam beyond other religions. Wouldn't it be better if this just spoke to the need for religious tolerance generally?
Well, the unfortunate reality is that in the wake of what happened in Quebec City, that was an Islamophobic attack. For 6 Muslim men in a city where the Muslim population is quite small, in a place of worship while they are praying, that is an attack on Muslims and is an attack on Islam. And so it makes sense that that politicians who want to do something to show their support with the Muslim community and to show their support with Canadians who have been so horrified by this attack, that they would put forward a symbolic motion to condemn Islamophobia. In Quebec, we had the same thing happen in 2015 when a woman who wears hijab was attacked in the streets of Montreal. A motion was served to the National Assembly by Québec Solidaire MNA Françoise David, and it did the same thing. It condemned Islamophobia. And interestingly, at that time, the Parti Québécois made raised similar concerns to what we've heard in Ottawa, that it shouldn't target Islamophobia, it should talk about hatred more generally. But they backed down on that criticism, and the motion passed unanimously. It was a very important step from the National Assembly to condemn Islamophobia. Of course, symbolic gestures only go so far, and the rise of Islamophobia in the province has continued. But it's important for us to name what we're condemning and to name the communities who are currently under threat in Canada.
But Amira, let me put that same question to you, because this has been one of the repeated oppositions to the wording of the motion as it is now, that when you put Islamophobia in there, that you perhaps elevate it beyond other kinds of racial or religious intolerance. I should say that changes the tone of the dialogue in Canada. So does it need to be in there?
Well, I mean, I think we have precedent for a motion like this. We had in 2015 a motion put forward by former Liberal MP Irwin Cotler that was calling for government to do everything it could to confront anti-Semitism nationally as well as internationally. So there's precedent for also other groups being mentioned in specific motions, whether it was recognizing contributions, for example, of Italian Canadians, or whether it was showing solidarity with with other targeted communities, either nationally or internationally. So there's precedent for this, and I think that the motion itself does address looking at systemic discrimination as well as religious discrimination. And I think that when we look to the actual concrete solutions that will be explored by a committee should the motion pass, it will not be looking only at Islamophobia in isolation, because of course hatred can seep into many various communities. And I think that all of us understand that in order to really promote and protect the inclusive communities that matter to us, we really do have to confront the various types of discrimination that people are experiencing. And there is no way to deny that at the moment, Islamophobia, the irrational fear and hatred of Muslims that can lead to discrimination and can lead to violence, is on the rise. And this is based on Statistics Canada's own data that shows that hate crimes in this country have doubled in the past 3 years. We see increasing numbers of human rights complaints. So this is certainly a phenomenon that has been noted and documented even before what happened in Quebec City. But Quebec City really did prove to be a wake-up call. And fellow Canadians, as I mentioned, are really looking for ways to confront this.
It'll be an interesting story to follow. Thank you both for joining us and adding your voice to this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.